This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Ready, hour number 2 of the program. There he is, Franco Panizo with the blue skies. Where you at, man?
It's a picture. It's a picture of how things are at InterMiami land right now.
Yes. And what a way to start last night, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that little boot by Campana, that was absolutely fantastic. And I'm happy for them, man, because, for a moment there, a couple of weeks ago, they kind of got into a little funk, and I was afraid that they were going to fall out of it. You know what I mean? And somehow or another, they were able to hang on and kind of straighten things out and finish the season strong. So I was glad for that. First of all, Franco, talk to us about how the playoff standings work now, what's left, because they've got one more game left, and how it could affect the standings.
So they're qualified. They're in.
Right.
Playoffs are a sure thing. They could finish 4th, which would give them a home playoff game. They win this weekend and get outside results. So Neville said that's what they're going to aim to do. I imagine that's true to some extent, but at the same time, they have to, try to keep certain players healthy, certain players fresh, because, listen, the games that really matter will be the playoff games.
Right.
Sunday will help you in terms of table and positioning and all that, but, like you've seen and like Phil Neville pointed out last night, Gonzalo Higuain right now is the only striker on the roster. So, he said you got to take care of Gonzalo. So, they'll go for it, I'm sure, but also be smart and manage it, throughout the 90 minutes.
By the way, Franco does a terrific job with Miami Total Football, the podcast dedicated to InterMiami. Make sure you subscribe to it if you're an InterMiami fan. It is a must-listen. Great information, as always, and great perspective on the game. Franco, before I get to all the good stuff, let me get the bad stuff out of the way. Campana, bro, I love what he's done, but he's got to find a way to take care of his body because the dude is very injury prone. And so I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but, this is a guy that has a future here. But, man, body-wise, what's the deal with him? Because it's 3 different incidents already this year with his body breaking down.
So, you raised a good point, right? As in he has a future here. I think that's more of a talking point now. I think before it was a 100% sure thing that they'll bring him back. Now I think they need to think about it because clearly, there were questions about him and injuries before he got to South Florida. That's one of the reasons why he, went from Europe to MLS. And we've seen in this year, body isn't holding up necessarily. So, when he's healthy and available, you saw the golazo he scored yesterday.
He's a productive Robbie Robinson. Because Robbie Robinson's always injured, but he does nothing anyway, so he's useless. But this kid actually can produce. But, dude, you got to stay on the pitch, man.
Campana's much more talented than Robbie Robinson. But anyway, I get your point. Look, when he's healthy and available in MLS, he's shown he can make a difference. But that's the question that Inter Miami's going to have to figure out if they want to take that gamble. Do you gamble on a player that has in a short career has had a long list of injuries or had injury problems and maybe warrants the label of injury prone at this point in his career? I mean, that's a question you have to analyze and assess and figure out and say, well, maybe, we obviously just see the injuries from the outside. They all have the science behind it. Maybe it was because of this, bad luck, whatever. But if it's the case of his body just breaking down and this and that, then maybe the unpopular decision of not bringing him back is the smart one. Maybe, publicly that would be what, especially after you're going to lose Gonzalo, but maybe that's the smart play in the long haul. We'll see.
The only plus I could see for them is because of the injury, he and his agent are going to have to understand we can't give you a long-term deal, and we kind of got to have to give you maybe an incentive-laden type of deal. Do they do those kind of things? Because he can't really demand a lot because he's not reliable. And that's the only – he might be reliable when he's on the pitch, but you don't know when he's going to be on the pitch. And that's right. How many games could he have played that he missed this year?
Yeah, he missed the season. Yeah, he's missed a good portion, probably around a third of the season at least. And he's going to miss this weekend from what I'm hearing. Possible he comes back in time for the playoffs. There's optimism about that, but no official word just yet. I mean,
he doesn't look like he hasn't been a quick healer either, by the way.
You can see he was upset because he knows that any prolonged injury will rule him out of the World Cup contention with Ecuador. So there you go.
Yeah, no, you could tell he was pissed. You could tell he knows his body, that whatever he pulled, he knew that, oh, crap, I'm out for a while now. It's one of those deals. All right, so now let's get into the good news. I mean, brother, the play of this team and everything, we were wondering about Neville. I don't think you can wonder about Neville anymore. I think he's done a really good job. I think you got to bring him back. I think Chris Henderson has done an outstanding job of turning this mess around with some limitations that he has. And he has one more year of limitations, right, with salaries, and then he's freed up. So I think he's done overall. Let's start at the top. Your assessment of Neville and Henderson.
Yeah, look, Henderson has done a remarkable job of turning the roster around. There was overhaul past offseason, and that led to obviously with the sanctions, not a whole lot of on paper, a lot of talent. There were pieces and role players, but not a whole lot of top tier talent. InterMiami only had one DP at the start of the year, Gonzalo Higuain, who had questions himself about his level of play and everything. And Henderson pieced together a roster that was competitive. And then Phil Neville took that roster and buy in. And it wasn't pretty at the beginning. He did say, and the players did stress in preseason, that there was going to be a need for patience, and they stressed patience. Us South Floridians, media, fans, just in general, I don't know if we're all that patient when it comes to sports teams and results. So, the criticism came in hard early. InterMiami was not that great during the first half of the season. They picked things up once Pozuelo came into the fold, which was a great acquisition from Chris Henderson. That helped, although it wasn't the only reason that Gonzalo Higuain's form rose and why he's playing at the level he's playing. But Phil Neville, and I've been very critical of him, probably the most critical or one of the most critical people here in the local media about Phil Neville during his 2 seasons here, but you have to give credit when credit's due. And look, he got, not only did Higuain raise his form and Pozuelo's impact make a difference, so did Phil Neville's change in approach. Because once Pozuelo came in, Phil Neville, and he said this in a press conference shortly after that, when you saw a different type of style of play, he said, I took the shackles off. And he advanced InterMiami's lines. They started playing much more aggressively, much more attack-minded, trying to impose themselves on their opponents, trying to suffocate them in their own half. Whereas before, it was a lot more defensive-minded, sitting deep, looking to counterattack, and that clearly wasn't working. That and there's coaches that would still stick with that. They would believe in their formulas being the way. Sometimes it works.
I think Franco. I think he was also in the process of figuring out who he could trust. So before I let you go run free, I need to be able to trust you that you're also going to do the defensive side of the ball too, and you're not just going to be playing on one half of the field. And I think that's probably why he started the way he did, to kind of build the foundation up of being more defensive early on and then easing up the strings and opening things up. And once you got Pozuelo, it kind of changed things also on the offense. It really changed things up, overall. So
overall for the team, I just saw a better team once it became attack minded. I saw a team that could score goals and that believed in itself a bit more, and that didn't look so hesitant and unsure of itself with and without the ball. I think that did wonders for the team, and obviously we've seen the fruits of that labor, because now they're a playoff bound.
And I thought Neville also, to bench Higuain and go through all that mess. I think that's what a good coach does. Sometimes you have to do some of the really tough decisions. But at the same time, it was a tough decision that was best for everybody, because in the end, the team ended up better. Higuain ended up better. And look at the results now, man. I mean, Higuain was a disaster of a signing for 2 years. This is the 1 year where it's actually turned out to be, this is what we wanted from the guy all the way through. And so I got to give Neville credit for ruffling those kind of, big-time feathers. You know what I'm saying? It's different to go rip into Robbie Robinson or Campana or any of these young cats. But an Higuain, That's a whole different
Yeah.
ballgame too.
Yeah, and I asked Phil about that after last Friday's win against Toronto FC. I asked him about the relationship with Higuain because obviously controlling or managing, not controlling, managing personalities is a big part of the challenge for a coach that has very big star players on their team, the players that have played at high levels that have big egos, and you know he went into a very long-winded answer about their relationship. He said it's always been positive, even though they've had moments where they've both told each other things that haven't been the nicest, or it's like, but the way he's managed Higuain overall has been a positive, and you can see it now for how Higuain's finishing his career, and that's a testament not only to Higuain but also Phil Neville. So yes, Phil Neville deserves credit. Last year I was very critical of him, and where I thought his shortcomings were. This year he deserves the praise that he's getting because he's done a tremendous job with a team that not many on the outside thought would be able to make it this far. I didn't. I surely did not think at preseason they would get this far. I didn't think at midseason they'd get this far. I didn't even think a week ago they would get to the playoffs. I still thought that they were not doing enough.
That's not a fair statement for you either or anyone else, because the team that's now is not the team that started at the beginning of the season. They added.
That's the thing about MLS. MLS preseason predictions are hard to do, but you got to do it. You got to do it. If you're in media, you got to do it.
But you didn't have any Pozuelo. You didn't have.
I do note that caveat when I do preseason predictions at MLS. I'm like, listen, you can see one team in the first half of the season, they make one signing, one DP from abroad or wherever, and that completely changes the team. They go on a run, they make the playoffs, they can even win MLS Cup. Not
preseason, we're looking at Marsman, not calendar. Okay? So while we think Marsman was all right, calendar was freaking awesome this year. He did a great job for a young cat. And so these are little things that happen throughout that we didn't know what was going to happen in the preseason. And then all of a sudden, you start, what's the Coco guy, right? Didn't they acquire him during the season?
Yeah,
also?
but he's barely played. So.
He's barely played, yeah. What happened to him, by the way?
He's just been injured.
Yeah.
Hasn't. I'm not surprised. He's coming from Europe. He's coming from, an off season, and then to try to find his footing in MLS right away, it's a challenge in and of itself because of the travel and the different climates and all this. And then on top of that, he's coming from a break, and he's training in South Florida, which is probably hotter than most places he's played in his career. So I'm not surprised that he's going through some injury issues. Next year will be the year where we can get a real idea of him, I imagine.
Right. They added a couple guys, so that's why the whole preseason thing is a joke in a way, because it's just not a good assessment of what the team really is, at this point. All right, so now you look at this team going. Well, they got Montreal left, right, on Sunday, right? That's what's left. And then after that, what do you like them in the playoffs? Do you like them to make a little noise?
I was asked this question earlier today. Look, I wouldn't consider them a favorite, but I don't think they'll be an easy out for anybody. I don't think anyone will look forward to playing InterMiami at this point. This is a team that has good pieces across the field and that has difference makers in Higuain, Campana if he returns and is healthy, Pozuelo. Look, the team that just won yesterday against Orlando City, its rival, was a team that didn't have Gregory, its captain, didn't have Pozuelo, its top playmaker. It lost Campana to an injury, and they still were the dominant team. It was was only one team on that field yesterday. Yeah, Orlando scored a late goal late on. They made it 4-1, but InterMiami dominated that game. It was a one-sided game. There was only one team on the field, and I'd be the first one to tell you if that was not the case and they won and the scoreline was flattering. But yesterday's scoreline was as indicative, if not even maybe a little less than what we saw on the InterMiami was that.
Oh, it was an ass kicking. It was an ass kicking. It was great. It's one of those that when you're on the other side of it, it's really boring to watch the rest of the game because they're kicking your ass. But when you're kicking their ass, boy, it's fun to just watch them just completely dominate. By the way, Lassiter.
It's playing well.
What a pass to Higuain, and then the goal score after that later on. I thought that was really, really – and Higuain was expecting another pass, and Lassiter said, no, I'm firing that one, baby. That's fantastic to watch that kid play. And let me tell you, Bryce Dukes, he's like a little pit bull, bro. He is just a tough little dude. But yesterday, that was fun watching Lassiter do his thing. That was good. That was good.
Yeah, he's definitely been the most productive winger this season, and his numbers aren't great, so that says something about the production Inter Miami's wingers have had this year. Definitely think that's a position where they'll look to improve this offseason. But Lassiter has definitely been the most productive and the most lethal for sure.
Are you any of that messy crap you believe in, or what? Or is it going to happen? Because somebody tells me they think in the middle of the summer next year is when it's going to happen.
So I would say that I think Inter Miami, I've said this for at least a year now. I think Inter Miami and MLS make a very serious push to try to bring him here. Whether that's enough to make him accept or not, or have him accept, I couldn't tell you. But I think that they'll make a very serious push to try to make it happen. I mean, it would be tremendous for.
And you also think in the middle of the summer, right after the season is over?
Yeah, after the European season ends, probably goes on a little bit of a break, and then comes in July. That standard mid-season European signing from Europe. That's if he signs. And I do think that they'll make a very good attempt. Don't forget, Messi is an Adidas guy. MLS is sponsored by Adidas. There's definitely ways that MLS can work around the salary cap and whatever they need to do to try to entice Messi. Because bringing Messi would be like, when Beckham arrived and that type of impact.
No, better.
Exactly.
Better, because Beckham's not on the pitch. This guy will be on the pitch.
No, but when Beckham was signed, I mean back to the Galaxy, like that type.
Yeah, exactly.
Worldwide recognition, like let's go watch these games either on TV, whether we're in Israel or South Africa or Argentina, wherever So
they're going to be able to charge double for the ticket, and there won't be a seat available. Okay,
if they sign him, yeah.
If they sign him. What's normal ticket, like $18, $20, $25?
Sure.
Easily $40. Yes, easily, and the place will be packed every single game. There will not be a seat whatsoever if you bring that guy here. There's no doubt in my mind, because everybody wants to go see a legend at least one time.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it'll be fun. All right, so you're expecting them to win the MLS Cup, is what you said. Okay, I like it.
I didn't say that.
No, you didn't say it? Oh, okay. All right. So what's going on Miami Total Football so they can check you out?
Yeah, I mean, just still covering the team on a daily, weekly basis, doing the pod, after every game. So we'll have another one, hopefully before Sunday's match, trying to figure out the timing. But, just the usual, analyzing the games, bringing you all the latest news updates, opinions, general punditry, and inside information that you can't get most other places or probably almost anywhere because, I think we're as plugged in as anyone that covers the team. I've already looked into the Campana thing, and I said since the beginning of the year I thought Higuain was retiring, and then throughout murmurs throughout the year, it's becoming more obvious. So, just tune into Miami Total Football Radio if you're an Inter Miami fan. If you haven't given us a listen yet, provide you as much things to chew on and dissect as any radio talk show. Obviously we just focus on Inter Miami, so it's only like once or twice a week, but yeah, we try to do as comprehensive and thorough a job as possible. We give just things to talk about. We raise questions like you mentioned Higuain's first 2 years, and now this season I raised the question on the pod earlier this week. Yes, okay, he's retiring, and yes, he's finishing on a great note, but can you consider his overall tenure with Inter Miami a success?
Well, you know what? I would call it a success.
They had to make the playoffs. I said they had to make the playoffs this year.
That's it.
Success, and they did it. So you can now look at Higuain's tenure and say it was a success here. Not a wild, great success, but it was a positive.
Well, let's be honest now. The teams from the prior 2 years weren't very good. There wasn't really any chemistry on the pitch at all. This is the first time that we have watched long-term chemistry. I'm not talking about a game or two or a half or whatever. That happens to any football team any year, that you'll have a lucky week or two that things go your way. We have seen more chemistry on this team this year than we had ever seen. Higuain never fit in with the guys. And now you brought in Pozuelo. And I got to tell you, Michelle and I were talking about this the other day. That little Argentine clique that they had, that was a cancer for this team. Let me tell you, okay? That was a freaking cancer for this team, that little clique that they had. It was too much, and it was almost like they were playing a club. I'm talking about club like in college, and playing club, soccer and having fun and having drinks, and let's go to the sorority and have fun. That's what it kind of reminded me of. And I think Neville's kind of made it back to get it to business. and Chris Henderson's kind of leveled it off. So I don't necessarily blame Higuain for everything the first 2 years. Yeah, it's his fault he didn't come into shape. Yeah, it's his fault that he thought he could smoke cigarettes and drink beer and score goals here. I get all of that. But everything around him was dysfunctional, which allowed him to be dysfunctional. I think these guys have kind of straightened it out now. And now look at him with Pozuelo and everything else has made his game better. So I can't lay it all on him. I got to say he did his part and the team did their part so they can be successful this year. So I would call it a success because, dude, yeah, at one point or another, you got to start proving that as an owner, for Moss, he's got to start proving that he can get this thing done. So this is also very important for Chris Henderson and for Moss to make it to the playoffs this year. You got it.
Absolutely. And you saw Moss celebrating with the team and the see how much it means to them. Again, that's the Moss brothers. We got to respect David Beckham, the organization, players, everybody involved, because not many people had him getting this far. And they've done what ultimate. So much deserved recognition. A lot of work done. It's not over yet. They've got still plenty of stuff to look, but a job well done so far.
All right, Franco Panizo. Follow him on Twitter at Franco Panizo, and make sure you sign up to Miami Total Football. Subscribe to that on all platforms. Franco, as always, thank you, my brother. Enjoy the football on Sunday.
We'll talk soon during the class.
We will. There you go, Franco Panizo. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. And looking forward to a little football. Yes, sir. I like it. We are out.